It's always interested me in comics when villains from other cities try their game on different heroes. Like that one time Joker tried to take on Superman because he was bored of Batman, only for the Joker to find that Superman could literally pack him up in seconds, leading Joker to just give up and turn himself in because he thought Superman was boring. It's probably one of the best Joker comics I've ever read. But honestly, if you are a bad guy in the DC universe, really any city you try to mess around in, you're bound to face nasty consequences. Like in Gotham, you'll have to eat through a straw for 6 months if you run into Batman. If you go to Metropolis, you could get killed by aliens before even running into Superman, and running into Grifter is punishment alone. But the number one city villains really don't mess around with at all is Central City, home to the fastest man alive. As a group of villains playing poker explain why in Flash number 800. As we start the story during Villain Poker Night, some villains go over why cities like Gotham or Metropolis are too chaotic to step foot in. But two villains point out that Coast City, home to the Green Lanterns, isn't too bad to commit villainy because the Green Lanterns are usually up in space and never on Earth. Adding that Hub City isn't too bad either because the heroes really don't try to stop any other crime other than organized crime. But then a different villain cuts off the others and says that he heard Central City was tough, but he thinks that's just all the hype. All the villains look at him in utter shock for a few seconds and then shout, "What are you, nuts? Central City is the worst of them all. Let me explain something to you." So one of the villains begins to say, "You ever wonder why big-time villains like the Joker or Lex Luthor never mess with Central City? Well, it's because Joker one time thought that the city would be an easy target. He had all his Joker gas lined up and ready for his big performance. But right as the gas started to flow, the Scarlet Speedster showed up. The Flash created a vacuum to blow the Joker gas away from the city safely and hurtled Joker in the direction of Gotham, never to be seen again. Not sure how the Joker didn't die, but that's besides the point. Another villain speaks up and says that's nothing. You ever heard of Condiment King? Well, he was trying to rob the main bank in Central City and got as far as the lobby with his ketchup and mustard guns, till the next second he was in a desert in the middle of Africa, adding that it took over a year for him to get back home. However, the villain still isn't convinced, so they bring up the Flash's kids who are even worse to run into. Cause the boy Surge is as strong as Superman because he once threw a giant over his head into water like skipping a stone. And the girl known as Thunderheart can hit you 90 times before you can even blink and give you the biggest wedgie just for her own giggles. After talking about the kids, they talk about some of the other Flashes and how tough they are as well, as one of them begins the story about Mordru, the wizard from another planet. Mordru's power is he can go anywhere in space and time, so one day he decided to visit Central City. While walking around Central City, a little girl would stick her tongue out at him, so Mordru took the little girl's lollipop because of some self-esteem issues. But it'd be his biggest mistake ever because he did it in front of the Flash, as the Flash would just wave his finger back and forth like, "You shouldn't have done that, man." So Mordru, afraid, jumps to another dimension, escaping the Flash. But he wasn't safe, because somehow the Flash found him. So Mordru jumped again and again and again, but each time the Flash was there. So finally, Mordru teleported to the end of time and space, figuring he couldn't find him there. But the Flash just walked up behind him and he held out his hand for the lollipop. Just imagine being chased all across time and space for a lollipop. Absolutely insane. And Mordru was never the same after that. Although the villain thinks that they're all just pulling his legs because there's no way these stories can be true. Cause the rogues still fight the Flash, but others say that's just because they're nuts. With the other adding that Batman will break you, Superman will toss you in prison, but the Flash will take the time to talk to you, which is the worst kind of punishment, to be reminded that you can be better. But the villain then says that they have to be pulling his leg because all the money he's been playing with was stolen from the bank next to the Flash Museum. After hearing this, all the villains freak out trying to collect their things until a knock is heard at the door. All the villains know that it's the Flash, but the one villain thinks that they're all just paranoid because he thinks it's the pizza guy. But at the door is the Flash asking if they all wouldn't mind having a little chat before taking them all in for the night, ending the story. This is by far one of my favorite Flash stories ever because I love it when you get to see heroes through the lenses of the villain and how they just exchange horror stories about why they shouldn't mess with the Flash. It's a real kicker. Because in reality, a guy who could bring you across the world in an attosecond or hit you 1,000 times in a second before you can even blink would be pretty terrifying. And that's why a lot of villains stay the fuck away from the Flash. But with that, the video is going to come to an end, and I hope y'all like this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.
Oh yes, now that my nefarious plan has been completed, I can now turn the entire world into a boomerang. Oh, it's the Flash! You're not gonna...
And that should teach you a lesson. to never get into villainy, kids. See ya.